Kathy. Welcome to the Colorful Homeschooler Podcast, where we parlay on productivity, personality, passions, education, and theory. I'm a lover of Jesus, a wife of 20 years, and a homeschool mama of 4 special needs boys who keep me constantly active. I'm so glad you're here to join me. Pull up a chair. There's space for you at this table. Hello again, everybody. So happy to be with you. I've been mulling over this idea for a few weeks now. As a Charlotte Mason enthusiast, as well as just an observer of life, notebooking has quite the impact upon our ability to take in and keep track of the world. Joan Didion, in my favorite of her essays titled On Keeping a Notebook from her collection Slouching Toward Bethlehem, she muses, "The impulse to write things down is a peculiarly compulsive one, inexplicable to those who do not share it, useful only accidentally, only secondarily, in the way that any compulsion tries to justify itself." In this essay, Joan is my spirit animal. She also has never successfully kept a diary, nor have I for very long, and she finds herself writing down snatches of life, sometimes in the margins of another type of book altogether. She makes the point that, overall, a notebooker sees herself in each notebooked memory that she or he has kept track of. That the self, usually without being mentioned, is the point. Lori Bestvater, in her book The Living Page, calls notebooks forms of vitality and declares that they outline the liturgy of the attentive life. Oh, I love that. What is liturgy but a customary repertoire of ideas, phrases, observances, a rite as prescribed for public worship? So the customary complete list of ideas for some rite of importance in an attentive life. I don't know about you, but I am always working on being more present in my own life. Charlotte Mason says, we all need to be trained to see and to have our eyes opened before we can take in the joy that is meant for us in this beautiful life. I want to see the joy that is meant for me. As my children are beginning to age out of several years of homeschooling, remembering to capture those moments of joy and have my eyes continually open to such joy surrounding me, the little flecks of gorgeous imperfection in a day filled with ups and downs. It couldn't be more important. The story of the Moleskine notebook is studied in business schools as one of the best product developments in recent times. Francesco Franceschi owned a company which only sold third-party products. In other words, they didn't manufacture anything themselves, and therefore their profit margin was low. He floated this problem to friends, among them Maria Sebregondi, an Italian woman on holiday with him. Upon returning home, she was inspired by a line from a bestseller about the original Moleskine notebooks. She searched for them and found, although they had been prized for beauty, quality, and durability, no one made them anymore. She offered the idea to her friend, and 2 years later, they had redesigned a perfect product for the, quote, contemporary nomad, close quote. All of the design elements spoke to this conceived archetype. The luxurious, minimalist, black, leather-looking cover shouts beauty, but also ruggedness. The rounded corners, the elastic strap, and the smaller size communicate ease of transport and help you to picture yourself rushing from Budapest to the Grand Cayman Islands, from Mumbai to Timbuktu, chicken feathers floating around you on a rocking bus as you scroll lines of poetry. Finally, the pages within, flush with the covers, ensure it can't be mistaken for a simple book of someone else's. This is a collection of your thoughts and sketches. But all of us know how expensive the Moleskine notebooks are. So why is a notebook so highly priced? And why on earth do people still pay for it? Barnes & Noble's, the largest stateside distributor of Moleskine, made their own colorful knockoffs several years ago and placed them right next to Moleskines in their many stores. Moleskine outsells them every time, even though Barnes & Noble's version are half the price. Why does this analog contraption demand loyalty and receive it from almost all socioeconomic classes? I feel the best answer came up in my research for this episode. Roland Allen, in his fantastic book, The Notebook, A History of Thinking on Paper, described the notebook as, quote, a simple product, easy to manufacture, appealing to creatives, and imparting promises of travel, of glamour, of discovery, close quote. So how do I act out this method of training myself to see? Of remembering myself amidst the chaos of everyday life in a home where I am not only mother, but teacher and guidance counselor as well. Neither I nor my children keep all of the notebooks recommended by Charlotte Mason, but if you are new to her philosophy, or perhaps a listener with no exposure to Charlotte, I do maintain quite a vast amount of record-keeping books. You may not choose to keep all of the same ones as I do, but perhaps you will hear something that inspires some new record-keeping for you. My most oft-written-in journal is my Bible journal. I use this for my quiet time and currently for my sermon notes as well. I have a small folder with printed out paintings and sketches and bits of poetry that spoke to me in a spiritual sense. I keep this folder with my Bible journal, and when a certain sermon or quiet time moment evokes a memory of one of these art pieces, I will take that one out and reflect on why it joins thoughtfully with whatever spiritual nuance has just occurred. I choose artistic covers and have lately been favoring Peter Pauper Press, which uses vintage or stylized artwork whilst keeping the price low. I find the paper quality lovely with no bleed through of my favorite gel pens. They are 120 grams per square meter, or GSM, which is lightweight but flexible enough to turn. The pages do only lay semi-flat though, so it isn't as desirable for sketching. These notebooks come in a standard size 5x7, so small enough for transport, but large enough to actually have space to write your thoughts down. I keep a pencil case embroidered with my name, filled with colored gel pens, Scotch tape, glue stick, and a pencil and eraser. I usually use 2 different colored pens, one for the main color, and one as a highlight color for important words or phrases that I want to stand out. The next notebook I regularly use is my commonplace book. If you aren't familiar with the concept of a commonplace book, they have been kept for eons, since antiquity. Richard Norquist, in his article on ThoughtCo, defines a commonplace book as, quote, a writer's personal collection of quotations, observations, and topic ideas. Also known as topos koinos in Greek, or locus communis in Latin. Called florilegia, flowers of reading, oh, it's so pretty, in the Middle Ages, commonplace books were especially popular during the Renaissance and well into the 18th century, end quote. James Blake, Lewis Carroll, Thomas Jefferson, Isaac Newton, and George Washington all kept one. Many of them are now published and available for you to read through. But what do you keep in a commonplace book? In Formation of Character, Charlotte Mason says it is a book in which to put down any striking thought in your author, or your own impression of the work, or any part of it. Based on this, my listening friends, every commonplace book is personal. So what do I keep in mind? Quotes from books that I'm reading myself. Quotes from books I'm reading with my children. Snippets from A Plutarch Life. A snappy comeback by a scrappy character. Even a helpful tidbit on how to separate your lists from a productivity book. But also, song lyrics that really touch my heart. Bits of poetry, sometimes a whole poem. A snippet of conversation that I overhear or take part in. Joan Didion speaks about writing down descriptions of people's clothing. George Washington wrote down little laws for manners, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, the women's suffragist, kept correspondence and private notes within a commonplace book. But why? Why do I keep one? Mostly because during dry times, when nothing seems inspiring, I crack it open and find something, remembering myself amongst those words. Why did that touch me? Why was that meaningful to me? It brings about new inspiration, or sometimes is exactly what I need to hear for a different reason than I originally heard it for. I also use it for this podcast, grabbing quotes and poetry or even mining ideas. A commonplace book, for me, really shapes a life. It reminds you of yourself and passes on pieces of you when you share it, like breath on glass. For this, I use a padded, personalized notebook cover. It has a watercolor of a woman's form, shoulders up, drinking tea with curly, curly hair. Roses are scattered around her at chest height, and her hair, floating around her head, is painted in with bookshelves. It has the quote on the cover, "Never underestimate the power of a girl with a book," with my name above the quote. Even just this as my commonplace book makes me smile. I keep a sketchbook as well, although I haven't been as loyal to this lately. This is part of my goal of consistent creative practice this year that I shared in my episode on my goals for 2025. But no matter what, I do enjoy sketching. My everyday sketchbook is a Master's Touch dry media pad. I use a 6 by 9.5 inch book with 90 GSM. I bought this one because it was affordable. It does have some show through with even just my H pencil. I have a watercolor paint journal as well, which is a small square journal, which I've used more often lately. I've been filling it with pattern prints using acrylic paint. Shh, don't tell the watercolor, please. I keep a nature journal as well. This is a cornerstone of Charlotte Mason philosophy, although she has many uses for it that I haven't partaken in. In refreshing my understanding of it for this podcast, as well as a talk I've been putting together for professional pursuits such as homeschool conference speaking, I noticed some expressions within the nature journal that I have previously not participated in, but perhaps I'll begin. Currently, I sketch visual representations of different flowers, birds, animals, trees, or anything that grabs my attention as I'm hiking or walking. I also have notes, measurements, paint swatches within it if I'm trying to capture a specific color, but I'm finding it difficult to do so. Sometimes I have a full page of notes prior to any sketching or brush drawing. I am now on my third nature journal since beginning homeschooling my children. Last year, we visited the same location once a month throughout the year and tracked at least 3 specific items within it. Mine were a Japanese red maple, a certain side of the pond, and a frog habitat. This process is known as phenology, and a simple online search shows various beautiful ways of keeping this practice. We've enjoyed doing this and watched the seasonal changes that affected our favorite parts of this riparian habitat. Again, if your desire is to be present within your life, watching the seasonality of a specific location definitely brings you into the moment of what season in nature is going on at the time. The next few notebooks I keep have specific purposes, less generalized than the ones I've already discussed. I keep a podcast notebook, jotting down ideas, creative phrases that I come up with that I think I may be able to use, script outlines, even transposition of some quotes that I know I will use under a specific idea they are helpful with. This is just a regular $3 spiral notebook, but this is thoroughly uninspiring and I want to upgrade when this one is finished. As a frugal mama, I will use it until it's completely full, but then I want to get something pretty. I keep a therapeutic notebook, also a cheap spiral-bound one, where I collect different exercises that I do for self-improvement. My values exercise, any surveys, worksheets, I glue them in and answer directly in the book. This helps me to keep them all in one place. When it is spread across different notebooks, it has less impact on me, and I found I didn't even use the things I had so painstakingly worked out. I didn't use them with any type of real consistency. Now that I've been collecting them in one place, I've found it more accessible in my everyday life. I have a garden notebook as well. I've attended some gardening classes, and all of my notes for those are in this notebook. I also have my garden plans from each year, plus my reflection after the year is completed so that I can look back and use the information to better my garden's health and its output each year. This one is a split page with an open gridded area at the top for sketches, diagrams, charts, and it has a lined section underneath. This has been most helpful for this type of notebook. I have a sun map of my yard in different seasons in the gridded area. some crooked notes, a bar graph of output in different beds, and diagrams of said beds from different years along with what I planted within each. I have measurements of the beds and soil treatments that we have tried, as well as a few sketches of the flowers that grew beautifully or the sorghum that looked so lovely but had minor use. You see, when you skim the sorghum and then grind it to try to make flour, like 7 plants made a cup and a half of flour. So if somebody knows a better way to make sorghum flour be more productive, let me know. I need the help. Finally, I have a book tracker and a film tracker. I mentioned this in my goal episode number 9, and I've been faithful in recording each of my finished books and films so far. It's Oscar season right now, and my husband and I enjoy watching many of the nominated films, although not all due to some content considerations for us. So I've been recording each of them. I purchased my book tracker from Etsy. It was a Christmas gift from my sister, and I love it. It has a dark forest theme and several illustrations within, as well as some pretty cool quotes. My film tracker, however, is rather plain. I purchased it on Amazon. It just has a black graphic of a film reel on the cover alongside the title, but it's what's inside that counts, right? How about for planning? For planning, I keep a digital family calendar through Apple Calendars. For school planning, though, I use a homeschool planner, physical, where I keep track of and plan weekly lessons. It has a full year vertical calendar in the front where I marked off the definitives, such as vacations, when I was going to take our term breaks, and I then use the weekly planning pages, which have a 7x7 grid to write the lesson plans within. I plan on Friday afternoons each week after nature study. I've considered doing an episode on how I plan each week's lessons, my methods, my process. Let me know if that would be helpful. I've used bullet journals some years for this. Other years I would spend time using planner stickers and decorative inks. This year I've contented myself to use a pre-printed physical copy where I use different colored gel pens for together work and then a distinct color for each child. My eldest also has his own high school planner where I write his independent assignments for him to keep track of. I purchased a Disney-themed notebook where the divider tabs are actually Mickey, Minnie, Donald, and Goofy. I love it. I'm using that to plan our big family Disney World trip for May and keep all of my notes and my dates straight within it. It's getting more and more full as the weeks pass, and I use the weekends to go over different things with my husband and my family. We're so excited for this trip, and I may or may not make sure we have a breakdown of what ride to go on when, color coding, all the things. I think that's all of my notebooks. I do not carry a book of centuries myself. I don't use an Inquire Within, a character journal, or a family diary, which sounded lovely. But I do try to remember myself within the pages of each of the collections I do choose to keep. I am happy to call myself a collector, as Best Fader and Allen refer to those who keep notebooks. And I will continue purchasing beautiful ones throughout my life, although I haven't found my way to the expensive side of the street just yet. Maybe someday I will count myself, not just in imagination, but in brand as well, amongst the contemporary nomads. But for now, I am pleased that I have a stack of pages bound within pretty colors or Middle Ages tapestry replicas with which to outline my liturgy of an attentive life. May you be blessed to do the same. Thank you again, all of my listeners. I hope to see you back again soon. I come out with new episodes every Tuesday. Please follow the show. If you enjoyed this, please leave me 5 stars and a written review wherever you're listening to it. Share it with a friend. Let me know how you like it and if there are any topics you want discussed. Remember, everyone, I believe in you.